Welcome to the King Man Podcast, where we discuss some of the hard topics facing men with a Christian perspective. I'm your host, James Russell, and I'm happy to be back with you today. Before we jump into today's topic, I really want to encourage you, if you have not listened to episode 60, the title is Practical Leadership. I want you to check that out. If anything that I have said over the last 60 episodes has meant anything, I feel like episode 60 is the one that if we can actually do what we talk about, we have the potential to change the world. Not exaggerating in the least. It's the most important thing that you and I can do as a man. So, if you have not listened, please go and listen to episode 60. And even more so, what will help make a difference is not just you listening, but you sharing that with other guys who may need to step up their game. So I appreciate all those who do listen. I appreciate all you guys who are sharing. So as we begin the topic for today, I want to talk a little bit about learning, a little bit about knowledge, a little bit about wisdom, and how those are really useful or maybe not so much. Now, I have learned, yes, I'm starting the definition with the word. I have learned how to learn. This is something that I value very, very much. Because it's not something that was taught to me. Or at least not that I can point to a direction. It sure didn't come from my time in school. If anything, my time in school, it taught me to not really value learning. Because at that time, learning was about having to recite information about things I'm not interested in, being able to regurgitate it to satisfy some school board, which I have never met and who have no idea who I am either, but have to have this metric somehow to make them satisfied. When I was in school, learning and education wasn't something that I really wanted a part of. I couldn't wait to get it over with. I couldn't wait to not have to go to school so I can go to work and actually make some money. I mean, I'm wasting all this time and energy in a classroom. I could be using that to actually, making myself a little more wealthy. That was my thoughts. And then I realized, once you get out of school, you also have bills that come, and so you spend your time trying to pay bills as a young man, and eventually you'll get to a position where the bills start not becoming so much an issue, and you begin to plan and think ahead for life. And it's at these moments when I realize, hey, you know what? I thought that I didn't like learning. I thought that I didn't like education. What I didn't like was school. That changes things. I had a conversation with one of my cousins who's in high school now, and trying to talk with him and saying these same kind of things. He's ready to get out of school so he can do things, and he's saying things like, I don't really like education, or I don't really like learning. I said, no, you don't like school. You like to learn. And then we began to discuss some of the things that he did like to learn, whether it be wrestling, whether it be football, jiu-jitsu. In my case, it's an area where I don't have a whole lot of education that I'm beginning to learn. And I like learning. And I didn't realize that until, like I said, not all that long ago. But looking back at my life, I've always been fascinated with the Discovery Channel. I remember as a kid watching the Discovery Channel because I couldn't wait to learn more about wild animals. For some reason, animals just always fascinated me. Now I find myself watching similar programs, but on weird things like, well, you may know the show How It's Made. Maybe you don't know that show. But I find it fascinating. They show how pretty much anything is made that's made. I mean, a jet ski or a couch. I mean, they go through all kinds of different things, and I find it kind of fascinating. If you scroll through my YouTube subscription pages, you would find all kinds of things that I also find fascinating. One is like a whole section of what they call ASMR, and if you don't know what that means, I can't tell you what it means. But basically, well, I can tell you what it means, but I don't know what ASMR those actually mean. But it's all about, it's like sensory. It's very, you get to experience what's going on, but not being told. So you're not being narrated to. So what in that genre of videos, there's several that I subscribe to. I can watch a guy mow grass. I could just sit there and watch it. I really appreciate that. It's soothing to the soul. I can watch a guy pressure wash. I can watch a guy shine shoes. These are all examples of things that I actually do watch. Because maybe I'm a nerd. Maybe I'm just an old guy. I don't know. But I do find it fascinating. And I learned some things here and there by watching it. And it's interesting. Some of the other subscriptions that I have on YouTube are about cars working on engines and things like that. And so I can gain a good bit of knowledge from the things that I watch if I look at it through the right lens. But probably more often than not, those things are just entertainment. I mean, as you would expect. But yes, I can learn how to clean a rug. But the truth is, I'm not going to put in the effort that guy who cleans rugs on YouTube, I'm not going to do that. I find it fascinating, but that knowledge of how he does it is not really useful to me. And I'm getting all this because I grew up with the statement, knowledge is power. And I don't think it's true. Knowledge doesn't give you a whole lot of power. Now, there may be exclusions, and I'm limited. I know I might not be thinking properly, but in my quick thought, in my quick analysis of his, knowledge is not really power unless you're on Jeopardy. Knowledge is good, don't get me wrong. But having knowledge and having experience, if you had to put the two on a scale, the experience is going to win every single day of the week, twice on Sunday. I believe there's a famous quote, and of course it's coming to mind as I'm talking, so I definitely cannot tell you who said it, or even if it's the accurate quote, but it goes something along the lines of, the man who has experience will not be at the mercy of the man who has knowledge. That may be inaccurate, but I hope that you can see the idea that they're portraying. Experience is way better. And we see this because you can go to college, you can go through seminary, you can go through 8 years and get a doctorate and have all the knowledge that you think you will need. But when you get out into the field, when you go and get a job to apply that knowledge, there are many people who have the certifications, the education, the degrees, that have no idea what they're doing. They have knowledge, but they have no experience. So what I want to advocate to you today is not just gather knowledge for the sake of gathering knowledge, because that's only good, again, maybe on Jeopardy. Knowledge itself is not power. Experience will trump knowledge. People pay more for experience than what they pay for just knowledge. And there's a step even beyond that, a realm called wisdom. And the way I define that, and have defined it over a period of years, is wisdom is a proper application of knowledge. And usually that comes after some experience. Because just because you have experience doesn't mean you have good experience, right? Sometimes your knowledge leads you to experience all the wrong ways to do things. And once you've learned all the wrong ways to do things, then maybe you've gained some wisdom and be able to properly apply the knowledge. Hopefully, you don't have to go down the path to learn all the wrong ways. Hopefully, your experience will lead you to wisdom a little bit quicker. But if you were to take all the men in your life, all the important guys, how many of them would you say have wisdom? How many of their lives would you want to emulate? If you want to emulate their lives, then that would tell me that they demonstrate a level of wisdom that you wish or that you aspire to. The thing is, I doubt that they got there just by scrolling through reels on their phone. I doubt that they got there because they were pacified by their social media accounts. I doubt they got there because of the education level that they have. Because some of the wisest guys I know don't have a formal education. They don't necessarily have a degree from Yale. But man, you want to talk about smart. Your education is only significant if you can put that education to work for you and create some experience and gain some wisdom. So no, I don't believe that knowledge is power. It's a good first step. I think that we should be gaining knowledge. I think that leaders are readers. And that's because, well, John Maxwell says it all the time, so I'm going to say it too. Leaders are readers. And if we want to talk about the last episode, if we're supposed to be leading our families, then we need to be able to lead ourselves. So we need to push ourselves to areas where we haven't gone before. Think about things in a way that we haven't thought about them before. And you know what's really hard to do? Think differently with the same mind that you used to think the original thought. When your mind came to a conclusion, however it got there, you think that's the right way. And it's really hard to tell your mind, maybe there's another way. Because it's your mind. It's the same tool. So that's why leaders are readers. Look at things from a different perspective. From someone who has a different mind. From someone who has a different experience. When we do that, we can really make a difference. And that is what the Kingdom Man podcast is all about. So what are you learning? What are you reading? What are you gaining experience in? How are you developing wisdom? These are genuine questions, and I would love to hear your answers. We're on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I would love to hear what you're learning about, what you're doing, what experiences you have, how you've gained wisdom. Because one of the things that we use to define a man is guiding. So some of the things that you're learning, some of the things that you've got experience in, some of the things that you have the wisdom, you need to be able to pass it on. Let's help each other out, become better men, better leaders. So give us a shout out on social media. Let us know what you're learning. And we look forward to seeing you next week.